Right. So it's time now for our first panel discussion. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce the moderator of the next panel. That's Mr. David Dronfield. David has just been appointed General Manager Middle East for Swisslog. And he is no stranger to the supply chain industry, and he has a wealth of knowledge and experience. He will be now moderating a panel talking about shaping the future with digital supply chains to enable expansion of manufacturing in the region. But just a few words about David. David's a British guy who's been living in the Middle East for many years. He was an apprentice as electrical engineer in the Flower Spa mines in Derbyshire, in England, graduated with a BSc in electronics from the University of Surrey, and went on to graduate as designing automatic guided vehicles. David's career spans more than 30 years in materials handling industry. So he, I think, is well equipped to tell us a bit about automation, talk about autonomous processes and innovation in the supply chain. David? Hi, Fadi. So I tell you what we'll do, James. Let's get Kunal and Fadi on. There they are. Thanks, Fadi. Hi, Fadi. How are you? Good to see you.
Hi, Joe. Likewise. Good to see you too.
Good. Hi, Kunal. Good to see you again. Okay. Well, let me start off. Let me start with the panel in the absence of David, because we did have some discussion on this. So, gentlemen, this panel follows exactly two technology presentations. One from Sulaiman Abdullah from the regulatory body, and then from Sherelle James from One Network. Now, in this panel, we're going to talk about shaping the future of digital supply chains to enable expansion of manufacturing in the region. Now, the way I see it, if I can just introduce things as we go along, the region being the Middle East and North African region. And I know, Fadi, you've been in automation for a while now and very successful. I haven't seen it for 2 years, but I know that you're making some inroads. But isn't this an opportunity for the region, which traditionally hasn't got a lot of resources for manufacturing or for big, heavy industries? Isn't technology now an opportunity for the Middle East and North Africa region to actually emerge using technology, using automation as a potential manufacturing power in this area? Fadi, could I start with you, because you have been already touching grounds on this area?
Yeah, hi, Joe. Yes, thank you for having me, first of all. As you said, of course, manufacturing is huge in our region. The potential for manufacturing is tremendous because you have, first of all, the population, you have the raw materials, and you have many factors from governmental support and so on to raw material products that are accessible in our region, all right, at affordable pricing. And the legislative body is built on basically encouraging manufacturing and the transformation of manufacturing. So we see a lot of positive change happening in the next few years coming, whereby there would be a lot of attractive opportunities for manufacturing to move from Asia, Europe, US to the region, to Dubai and the region, in order to be closer to the consumer. So there's a lot of impact happening recently in order to encourage that.
Right. Kunal, earlier on, Miss Nadia Abdulaziz, who was talking about the mega trends that she saw for the region, saw this as a big opportunity, because one of the things that we are seeing globally is the reduction of dependency on China manufacturing and looking at codependencies moving around this part of the world. What role do you think the Middle East and North Africa has in this change in codependency? And of course, not all manufacturing could be accommodated, but which you think could be the manufacturing which could be accommodated, which would make sense and rebalance a moment the manufacturing machine of China, if you like?
So I think, thanks again, Joe, for having me here. Yeah. So I think one of the major things which we personally experience as an organization and as the industry also. So if you see food and beverage industry, now what happened in COVID was not only like you said, you wanted a lower dependency on China or any one country for that matter. We also saw a lot of takeaways becoming very popular, deliveries for food becoming very popular. Everybody wanted to order food rather than going out. So that automatically takes your whole takeaway industry, which is plastics and cutleries and so on and so forth. That's something that is a very huge increase during these times. And if you actually go back into that supply chain a little bit and see, we as a region are probably one of the biggest exporter of the raw material for plastic because of the huge petrochemical industry present here. So ultimately, these pellets go from this part of the world, go into China, they just convert it and send it back. And now, as we all know, the current freight condition is so high from China, with plastic coming in from there, which is so low value and with such a high freight, is actually not making much sense. So that is one industry where I feel it's kind of a immediate no-brainer that it should be more and more produced within the region for the region. I mean, there is no reason for the whole region of Middle East and even for that matter North Africa to be importing from anywhere but within UAE, Saudi for that matter. So I think that kind of disposable industry is a very big thing, and they have the resources, they have the demand. So there is nothing more required for a manufacturing setup to be looking at coming into the region. So I think that definitely is one of the big industries.
Yeah. Kunal and Fadi, I did not get a chance to introduce you because David was supposed to be that. I'm standing in for David. But maybe, Kunal, while I'm with you, could you maybe explain what is your background, what are you doing, and how could you influence in some way the outcomes of this manufacturing transformation in the region if there is an opportunity? And I'll ask the same question to Fadi in a minute, because clearly you are key players in the region, and I think the influence that you may bring could also impact the outcomes of what we're talking about in this context.
Sure. So I'll start with a little background of myself. So I'm an engineer by first qualification, which gives me that technical edge. I've worked in IT industry for the early part in my career, so I've been there, done that in terms of programming, managing projects, and whole project life cycle, so on and so forth. Then I did my MBA, and then ever since for last about 12, 13, 14 years, I've been in supply chain industry. And over last 6, 7 years, I have 8 years specialized more into food supply chain. So that's been my background. And now I head global supply chain for Batil. As we speak, I'm based here in a manufacturing setup. So as Batil, we run retail operations, retail boutiques, cafes, e-commerce, and distribution of supermarkets. So B2B. Now,
more in the leisure side, I would say, more in the leisure light industry type of environment.
Exactly. Right. So it's more of retail come food and beverage. Now, everything that we do is actually coming back to manufacturing is being manufactured between UAE and Saudi Arabia. So we have actually two manufacturing setups, the big ones. One is where I am based in DIP in Dubai, which is for all our cafe products, so pastries, bakeries, date stuffing, chocolates, even our whole kitchen, central production kitchen is based out of this facility. And then we have another huge facility out of Saudi Arabia, which is for all date manufacturing, cleaning, so on and so forth. So from that perspective, we are 100% and Middle East based manufacturing setup, if I can put that.
Kunal, if I could just stop you there, because David just joined us, and I just wanted to ask Fadi one more question, and we can introduce David. I'm sure, David, you must have had a technical problem to connect. So, Fadi, just to tell us what you do, what is your role? Because I know you're basically in engineering, in automation, and you're very much suited to more industrial manufacturing type of activity, and maybe to tell us how you could influence the outcomes of manufacturing in the region. And then I'll pass on to David to carry on his discussion.
Okay, Joe. So I'm Fadi Amoudi. I'm an entrepreneur by heart. My story is that I moved to Dubai 3 years ago and I started IQ. All right. We're experts in the technology transformation and micro fulfillment industries. So basically, we're both operational and technology providers at the same time. Hence, IQ Holding has IQ Fulfillment, which is the first robotic fulfillment solution in the entire MENA region, and that's what we built out of Dubai 2 years ago. In addition to that, the sister company, which is IQ Robotics, which is a technology company that transform everyone that wishes to transform from the regular brick and mortar into the new digital era, whether you are in e-commerce, whether you're in logistics, whether you're in manufacturing or any other sector in itself.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Fadi. So David, we're just talking about the introduction of manufacturing, what could influence the outcomes of manufacturing. We're talking about that, the backgrounds of Kunal and Fadi. So I'll hand it over to you to carry on with your expert
Yeah, you're a gentleman, Joe. Look, thank you for taking over while my laptop crashed and went off the end of a desk and nearly out of a window. So, gentlemen, I'm sorry, we're in the holding room and everything was going fine until I hit the, the link button to this room. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your patience. My name is David Dromfield. I'm the General Manager for Swisslog in the Middle East. I've been here in the region for 15 years. All based in storage and materials handling, and 35 years in the industry in general. So it's a pleasure to be here. Look, I was asked to host this panel based on shaping the future for digital, with digital supply chains to enable expansion of manufacturing in the region. Emphasis on manufacturing in the region. How do we get more manufacturing here? So before I ask a couple of questions of these esteemed gentlemen who've just introduced themselves, I'd like to just set a little bit of a terrain for the region. Because when you talk manufacturing, you get a very common response from people saying that, oh, GCC is not considered to be a good manufacturing base. It's got a limited manufacturing base compared to many other regions in the world. And why is this? And I often hear the comment come back saying lack of resources in the region. But truly, lack of resources here, people look at it and go, it's a desert, there's no resources. But where else in the world do you have so much raw material for plastic available? The HDPE, the high density polyethylene pellets, Barouge can't produce it fast enough and the majority is exported. So much plastic available here in the region. Saudi, they've got one of the largest dairy manufacturing industries in the world, and not many people outside of the Middle East know that. We've got available energy, we'll talk about oil and gas, etc. But besides that, and it's readily available, we've got almost an unlimited supply of clean energy, the renewable energy in the sun. Now, as the world goes forward, that is going to become key. So it will definitely take over from the oil, the petrochemical side of the business. We've got regional governments who openly promote investment in infrastructure and development projects. They're open about it, and they're looking at every avenue on how to create industry in the region. We've got an abundance of land. We truly have, and it's in critical locations and key locations. And on that land, there's the ability to develop industrial zones. And there are the plans and the foresights to install the infrastructure to connect all these zones together, connect the demographics with the industries. Saudi, KSA and the UAE are both committed to developing manufacturing as key industry sectors in their respective regions. So they say there's a potential for connectivity here, where else is so well positioned, both on a regional and international level for connectivity. It's unprecedented compared to elsewhere in the world. I mean, we talk about the shipping lanes, and we saw what happened when the Suez was blocked. We are in the center of the world here. So this centralized location for the Middle East, it's claimed to be ideally located. Why can that not host the growth of manufacturing for the future? So we've got the capacity. How do we do it? And we're going to talk about it now in terms of digital supply chains. So I hope I've just laid out a little bit of a footprint, and we've got these two experts now to say, right, with all this infrastructure, with this footprint, how can we bring the digital world, the digital supply chain, how can that be used to attract, support, and incentivize the expansion of manufacturing in the region? So I'm looking at left and right screens here. I'm going to go to Mr. Fadi first because he's on my left and I'm left-handed. So in terms of supporting, in terms of incentivizing companies to come to the region, general overview, how can we promote that with the digital world?
Thank you, David, and good to have you back. So, realistically, in the region, we're talking about population, right? Consumers nowadays want everything faster, quicker, cheaper, and they're just used to this level of service nowadays. And consumers are going to become more dependent on products that are closer to them, because as we saw from the pandemic, the entire supply chain logistic was disrupted, right? So the consumer needs is going to transform, and consumer expectations is going to transform the entire supply chain. Of course, manufacturing is the building block, because that's how everything starts. And having and encouraging manufacturing in order to be closer to their consumers would add a lot of value in terms of clients' expectations, user satisfaction, in terms of faster and shorter lead times to your end consumer. So that will all play a big factor in terms of encouraging basically the commercial side of it, whereby they can have faster and growing more revenues in that sense. And of course, the governments, whether it is in the GCC, in Jordan, UAE, and KSA, are backing manufacturing transformation, manufacturing projects in terms of incentivize, in terms of loans, subsidies, etc., free zones that they can operate in multiple scenarios. So the whole infrastructure that is built and being built in the next 10 years in our region is towards geared around the transformation infrastructure. So you have a high penetration of mobile uses and so on. So the infrastructure that the government is building will basically encourage a lot of manufacturing companies, whether it's dairy, whether it is plastics, whether it's PPT, whether it's package protection and so on, or consumables or toys, to move to our region and to move closer to their consumers. Whether they're gonna, at the end of the time, whether they want to be a D2C, a direct-to-consumer brand or not, it's up to them, you know. So as we see, people and manufacturing hubs and companies are becoming closer to their consumers because they can understand their consumer more. They understand their wants, what their requirements are. The only way to do that is by moving closer to your consumer.
Hence, so getting them closer, getting the actual manufacturer closer to the consumer, you're saying that's a key driver.
As simple as it is, right? Just moving closer will give you what? Will give you less time, right? More shelf life if you're in FMCG, okay? It will give you less cost, basically, because you're transforming at the end of the day. It'll give you more incentives, whether it is the GCC and so on. So there's a lot of value-added benefits that the governments are basically working on in order to encourage big manufacturing companies in order to move to our region. But I think that is one of the steps that they are already considering, whether post-pandemic yet alone, pre-pandemic yet alone, post the pandemic, right? I was talking with you guys in the waiting room before that it's so funny. I have a vendor in China that sells us package protection. He's one of our strategic companies that we work with. And the guy is calling me from China in order to source raw material for his plastic package protection from Saudi Arabia and UAE. So, you know, this tells you the whole story in itself.
So, but you think the digital on top of that? So, I mean, you've referred there to the government's infrastructure all being in place here. So, are we doing enough to put a digital capability to be able to do that here? Bringing.
So I know, in fact, that I sat in a panel before. There is a strategic vision from the UAE government within the Dubai Future Foundation in order to lay down the robotic and automation advisory vision for the next 10 years. All right. I was lucky to be on 2 of these panels in order to discuss with like-minded people like yourselves, gentlemen, in order to see how we can transform this. I think they're doing a great job. Just that initiative in itself would lead you to wonder on what's coming next, right?
So that's on the technology level. Their incentives are in pushing on the technology level.
100%. So whether it is from governmental, whether it is from forming your companies, whether it is from labor, whether it is from employees, whether it is from insurance, whether it's from any other requirement, imports, right? Logistic hubs. So all of that is being digitalized and transformed. So if you have that, you add to it a bit of automation and robotics, then you
I'm
know
not going to let you do a hard sell today here, Ferdy.
You know that.
Excellent. Kunal, can you follow on from that? Can you add to that?
Absolutely. I think, Fadi put it absolutely bang on. I mean, I think to all the factors he added earlier, that to bring manufacturing closer to the consumer, which I had more than 100% agree. It's also about, what we noticed last 1 year, year and a half, too much dependence on imports is also something we are trying to come out from. I mean, take food industry, it's a basic industry, right? We all need to eat. I mean, we still import as UAE about 90% of food that we eat. So how sustainable is that? I mean, we've seen lockdowns, we've seen, disrupted supply chains. So that is another huge factor, or rather a incentive for not only individual, but as government institutions also, that there is a huge focus now on the local manufacturing in every sense. I mean, the local farming, if you see, there's a huge drive to have farming sector in terms of creating hydroponic farms, vertically integrated farming. That's something that, I mean, we as an organization have moved during last 1 year, year and a half, to all our fresh produce, not from Europe, but mostly everything. All leaves are now from UAE. So we are actually using in all our cafes everything hydroponic. So these are some kind of means which are not only how it becomes more and more, better in terms of quality, shelf life, all the factors that Fadi said. It's also about sustainability. How much to produce something out of Europe, bringing it by air, adding to the carbon footprint, and then giving it to the consumer, which is 5 days old. So all this is also a huge incentive in terms of why we should be moving this. And again, talking about digitalization, I think the governments here are doing more and above in terms of digitizing. I think probably they are the first ones to start investing in all these technologies. I mean, we all know the buzzwords. You talk about AI, you talk about IoT, you talk about blockchain. You see our government projects, they are actually putting the first ones to put in money and trying to digitize as much as possible. So how many services over last 1 year we saw are now 100% in only digital out of UV government. So I think this adds on. Imagine what does the manufacturer need, man, in terms of their digitization. Your goods come in at the port. You see Jebel port is practically 100% automated, digitized. You have within hours your containers are released. Everything, your custom inspectors will come to your facility to inspect physically. So that seamless operation that we are talking about is what any manufacturer would look at in terms of incentives. They have very good incentives when it comes to offering discounts on duties and things like that for manufacturing incentives. So I think they all the right ingredients are there in place, but this whole digitization is going to make it much more smoother and easier for the guys to operate. I mean, that's the whole idea, I think, and the guys are doing pretty well job in that sense.
So you're confirming as well that all the infrastructure is all in place here.
Absolutely,
we've got everything we need here.
Yes, and it's only getting better. So it's like the whole confidence here is you know that if there is something which is going to be happening somewhere in the world, probably it will be this part of the world where they will do adaptation. I mean, the whole thing is, of course, there's a gap between when I say government adopting it and the private sector and other consumers adopting it. It takes some time, which is probably the other way around in most of the parts of the world. But in Dubai, it's a great thing that they lead by example. You will have your government services first going on digitizing, and then, I mean, you must have noticed the latest one. We are going to be all having, only an app for your Emirates ID very soon. You will not even have a card. So my point is, if that level of digitization can be done, now it's just one click of a button for everything you need for yourself on an app in Dubai. You go to an app called Dubai Now, you have all your bills, all your things, everything in one place, right? So I think so it's basically a government is the first enabler that gives you that confidence that's possible within the country. So why not, if they can do it countrywide, we can't follow it in a industry-wide standard, is my question. We should be looking and kind of trying to look forward to these kind of changes.
I mean, so we're all agreeing. Yeah, carry on, Joe. Carry on.
I ask a question, David, because clearly attracting foreign investments or Western investments into the Middle East has not been successful in the past. but there has been some locally grown big companies, like the big company in Dubai, Mubadala. I don't know if I spell it rightly, Mubadala. They've invested in big semiconductors plants. Isn't the question of homegrown investment in manufacturing going to be successful more than other countries investing in the Middle East?
I mean, is it a question that, like, China has drained all of the manufacturing, and it's a matter now of, okay, what can we bring back to the middle of the world here? I mean, saying that we're in a centralized base here. So everybody has gone lowest cost base of labor, etc. in China, let's be honest. Yeah. But in terms of the quality of manufacture that used to happen in the West, move that over to the East, low cost base, low labor base. That's not going to last forever. No. It's not going to last forever. And you've got a mindset here of not just to invest to move forwards, but the entrepreneurial spirit and the desire to do something different. So I think the whole framework is set here. The whole baseline is set, as we just discussed, from land, governments, infrastructure, raw materials. There's a lot going for it. So it's adding on now. We're going back to the question of what's the digital bit going to add on. But I think you're right. Local companies here, they love to invest. They love to set up and do something new. We're talking to a regional client now. He wants to look at, the eye-picking capability of the robot. So, to be able to pick orders all on their own. And that's happening all over the world. But, it still needs pushing, the recognition software, the actual adapter capabilities to pick and do. So that's all moving forward around the world, but people are looking at it here as well. So,
but is the opportunity to leapfrog the industrial process with technology, not opportunity? Because by having a high level of automation, high level of digitalization, you could leapfrog cycles in manufacturing and take some opportunity. Is that not opportunity that we should be looking at?
Well, I guess we'll ask the gents, but I mean, it's like the old the digital world of going from VHS tape to CD. You're going straight to the solid state drive here. So they won't be going through a build-up process of long automotive assembly. They'll go straight to the automated assembly lines. They won't have that legacy to overcome. Paddy, what do you think? Would somebody come and set up here based on they're going to be using the very, very latest automated technology for manufacturing assembly supply chain, as opposed to building up over legacy systems over time?
100%. I totally agree with you, David. If you see it nowadays, whether it's in the manufacturing sector or whether it's the logistics sector or any other sectors, people are shying away from their, dynasty software solutions or operation systems that they have. Everyone wants to transform. Everyone wants things more visible, more seamless, integrated, connected. It's all about that right now. Take, for example, us, IQ. We moved 2 years ago over here, started operation because of what the UAE stands for, a strong infrastructure and a hub to transfer from here to all over the world, right? And we're a technology.
It's a brave move, but you're a game changer with it, Paddy, as well. So, I mean, that's not happening everywhere. You're a game changer here.
But someone has to start it, right? So we took the initiative on our behalf to start it. And hey, can't complain. We're launching different solutions. We have a lot of countries all over that wants us to transform. So we have something nice coming up next month, whereby we can share it with you guys.
So, Conor, give me an example of an industry which we think we can attract here, given that we've got all the baselines covered. What particular industry could we chase and attract by saying we can digitally connect? We've got all of the automation, the digital aspects here in the middle of the world, in the central supply chain. What industry?
Two of them. One we spoke while we were waiting for you already, so I've spilled some beans there. So one was actually, like you were mentioning, about the plastic industry. So I was talking about the whole takeaway part in the food business. All these plastic manufacturing raw material goes from here to China, they convert and you bring it back. So you're not only kind of waiting for so long, you're also adding a huge amount of freight now, which is not adding any value to anybody. So that industry, which is in plenty now, available actually in UAE and Saudi, and I think that is for growth. The whole consumable, takeaway plastic. And on other note in terms of food, like I was saying, that's a huge area of which is more like the agriculture industry, which is from traditional agro to the
Yeah.
whole tech-based farming. So these are farms which are built within warehouses, and they 100% work on technology. So the whole concept is they are designed built on IoT devices. They are fully automated. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
need to kind of even go and figure out what is happening, because everything is done by sensors and read by it. And fresh produce. So these are absolutely the industries which are going to be huge amount of growth in next few years in the region. For
So
sure.
we could be a driver here, a game changer for literally food production.
Absolutely, big time.
Of course, I totally agree with Kunal. You have hydroponics right now here, you have vertical farming, you have all of that. That's all digital transformation, right?
Exactly.
A warehouse codes, which is 1,000 square meter or maybe less.
Yeah.
It's from tip to top. It's all
Yeah, it's all lettuces. I mean, it's probably feeding, one type of a lettuce for the whole Carrefour from that few thousand square feet of a warehouse. So that's what we're talking
And
about.
they've got the drones, haven't they, checking on the plants at all the different
No,
levels?
they have actually sensor at every level. So, they have sensors checking because they are hydroponic, means actually without soil. So they don't even have soil. So, in their mineral, these sensors will check for exact availability of the water temperature, the moisture, the nutrients, how much is there. If more is required, it will be, again, there is a separate thing which dispenses it. So it kind of keeps it so much under control that within 5 days, 6 days, you have this beautiful green lettuce, which is looking better than what you've seen in Europe, and then you take it off, and in another 5, 7, 8 days, you have another one. So that's how it is working. So
you'll be getting some complaints from some grocers in a minute coming online. Be careful.
Yeah,
so that's the food. You're saying the food could be attractive because of that.
Yes.
Can I just go back to the plastic, since
Yes.
I know there are companies here? So as Fadi
Absolutely.
said, shipping out the plastic pellets to China, making the toys, making the medical equipment, etc., bringing it back in here. Why not just bring the machines here? Why not just bring the
Exactly.
automation here?
Yeah.
We've got the raw material. We don't need the labor pool as such because it's automated, it's digitized. Will that work?
Yeah, 100%.
That would definitely work.
Yeah, we got the land, we've got the resources, we've got the energy. We'll have the free solar energy to drive it. There are facilities here now which are totally 100% reliant on solar.
Yeah.
It's not in the future; it's here now.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So that's plastics, that's food. What other industries?
You
We're
can
gonna
do
promote.
pharmaceutical too.
Yeah.
You already have it here.
Well, there's already here, isn't it? So
There is already here, and that could transform more. Because the way I look at it, it's not only transforming manufacturing, right? We're not talking about services here.
No.
The new thing that we're coming out with is it's all about solutions. All right. Service is part of your solution, and that's what I tell everyone right now is our fast model, our mass model, or our RAS model, which is robotics as a service, is no longer a service where people require solutions nowadays. What we're offering people are solutions. So take as an example the pharmaceutical sector we just mentioned, right? We have a lot of pharmaceutical manufacturing here in the GCC, in UAE, in Saudi Arabia, and etc. What is missing is linking the entire supply chain, meaning they're going to do the pharmaceutical, they're going to do the manufacturing. We have the raw materials is there, the manufacturing is there, the supply chain and logistic is there. What is missing is the front end. It's the sales.
have we got the security on that? Have we got the security, like the TAPA security? Like the questioning on the production of pharmaceutical? Have we got that level here?
Have that. Definitely.
I'm sure we do. I mean, I think the latest example you see, we are manufacturing. We've had tie-up with the Sinopharm vaccine, right? Abu Dhabi is producing and already exporting it to the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the latest. We're not only
that's
doing
all
it for the
digitally controlled, isn't it?
Exactly.
That is all digitally controlled.
Imagine the vaccine
End-to-end.
itself is so new. Not only just getting the vaccine, but manufacturing it. So you can imagine, that speed, and this cannot happen without automation and digitization. I'm sure. Yeah. So that is.
Add on Kunal, it's the cycle is manufacturing to consumer now.
Correct.
Right? If you have all these vertical integration already done, and digitalize, what's left? Nothing, right? So that's one you
Just the
really
will.
exactly just the way to do it, because you have manufacturing facilities right now over here for pharmaceutical. They just need to slap a front end to it, and that's it. Go digital, go e-commerce, and everyone is also transforming in that sector. So realistically, it's from the conveyor belt, from the manufacturing facility to your last mile provider that is basically delivering your pharma to your house.
Yeah.
And that's your seamless. That's it. That's your seamless experience. You get it. It just needs a front end that you patch to this, and that's it.
We're going to be seeing investment lines come on here in a minute, Mr. Fadi. Yeah, we will have investors going in on how much.
It's a great discussion, but we're running out of time, David. And just want to sort of wrap up. We've got another 5 minutes to go, because but just to concretize what Fadi and Kunal and of course yourself, David, was saying. How do we now convince the world that there is opportunity in terms of the type of manufacturing, but the value add, but also for the local governments in terms of what creates GDP? Because to be honest, if we have a vertical farm and we have a very, I would say cheap commodity, because people are going to pay, pennies or cents for vegetables and not dollars. How does that create GDP for the country? What is the win-win type of balance? That is the question that we've got to try and answer.
So you're saying, is there a business case? So
is there a business case?
Exactly. Have we got the business case to bring manufacturing here, putting digitalized across end-to-end of the supply chain?
That's right. That's right.
The cost of bringing your lettuces here, certainly from flying all of the produce that comes from Holland, as opposed to producing it here down in Jebel Ali.
It is. I mean, I'll take that one because I actually know the exact difference in the prices. So basically, to begin with, Joe, you have a absolutely valid point. So when you grow it here, the first farm that obviously came up was definitely not cheaper than bringing it from Europe. I'll be honest. Yeah. But then what actually makes a business case or viability is producing it in that mass. So when you have 1, 2, or 5, it will not come down. But when you have 100 of those set up, then it will actually compete in terms of pricing. And that's what will give the confidence for people to adopt. So if you show that quality, that yes, it is so fresh and so good, but it comes exactly at the same price or a little lower, then that will make sense. I mean, I'll give you another quick example. I think our Prince Sheikh Hamdan's initiative, he's set up a fish farm out of Jebel Ali. I don't know how many people know. So there is actually a fresh salmon which is grown here. I mean, which not anywhere except, Norway and Scotland people understand much about it. But you see, that is the only pure organic salmon that is grown in the country. Now, today, is that extremely cheap? It's not cheap, but the fact is, the idea, they want to expand it to a level where they will compete with the prices of import. But that's the future. So my point is, the guys are taking that initiative. It's just about scaling it up and making it more feasible and viable. That's how I look at it. That's the only way to do it.
So all aspects of a business case are covered now. We just need scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Look, thank you. That was excellent. I know you gentlemen always, you individually. Yeah, it's hard to shut you up at times, but yeah, you bring real value to any discussion. Do we have any questions, Joe, which from the audience at the moment?
I don't have any questions, unfortunately, coming in. But if I can ask you another question, again, looking at the innovation, have we made the case that the MENA is the right place for shifting the codependency away from China? Because there are contenders in other parts of the world which are laying claim to that. So have we made the case that the future for MENA, for manufacturing, is a viable one? And what should we do to drive the message forward? Again, you said there's land, there's resources, there's money, there's goodwill, there's enthusiasm, there are entrepreneurs like Fadi, there are successful business people like Kunal. What needs to change to move that mindset to put focus on the MENA region? That's the bottom line.
All right, we'll add the digital supply chain to that, because our supply chains, we have all the tools here, so to connect with everybody. So in terms of digitalisation, we're there as much as anybody, I would propose. So are we missing anything, gents?
No, I guess that covers pretty much it. Yes.
Literally ticks the boxes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
what is missing?
Attracting the people to come over then.
Yeah. What is missing? So in terms of, it's just going to be price competitiveness, which over time will change. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
China is not going to stay cheap labor forever.
Correct.
No. And if you've got 100% trustworthy base on a digitalized world here, newly built digital production line, why wouldn't you trust it? Why wouldn't you move here? Why wouldn't you buy from here?
Good. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for the very lively discussion, David and Fadi and Kunal. I hope that we can resume this discussion next year when we can all meet face to face in Dubai and see where the needles moved between now and next year, and really has the shifting dynamics of the globalized focus on changing codependency, but also accelerating technology, has that helped to move us forward? And I think that's going to be a very interesting scenario. And you at Swisslog now, David, you have all the control levers in your hands to keep us alert and alive and automated.
You're giving me a sales plug there. Thank you, Joe. Better do the same for Mr. Kunal and Fadi. Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye,
So,
everybody.
bye-bye.